Dylan leaned back against the sofa, rolling the apple slowly in his hand. His mother's words echoed in his mind, but he didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took a quiet bite of the fruit, the crunch filling the silence of the living room. His father finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Your mother is right, Dylan. The army isn't the place for you anymore. You have responsibilities now, not just to us, but to Isabella. She's your wife. She needs you." Dylan's jaw tightened. He lowered his gaze, staring at the half-eaten apple as if it carried the weight of the world. "Responsibilities," he muttered under his breath. "You think I asked for this?" "Maybe you didn't," his father admitted. "But life doesn't always give us choices. Sometimes it forces us to face what we've been avoiding. Isabella is not your punishment, Dylan. She could be your salvation, if you let her." For a moment, Dylan said nothing. His thoughts tangled between resentment and a strange, unshakable warmth that Isabella stirred in him. She was innocent, fragile even, yet there was something about her presence that unsettled his hardened heart. Finally, he exhaled, his voice low. "I don't know if I can give her what she deserves." His mother placed her hand gently over his. "You already are, Dylan. Maybe more than you realize." The room fell quiet again, but this time, the silence wasn't heavy. It was almost gentle. Dylan leaned back, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in a long while, he allowed the possibility that his parents might be right. Upstairs, Isabella slept soundly, unaware of the storm raging within the man she had married. The apple in Dylan's hand was nothing but a core now. He set it back on the plate and rose from the sofa, his expression unreadable. "I'm going upstairs," he muttered, not waiting for his parents to reply. His footsteps were heavy on the stairs, yet steady, as though each step carried him closer to something he couldn't name. The bedroom door creaked softly when he pushed it open. Isabella lay curled under the quilt, her dark hair spread across the pillow, her breathing slow and even. For a moment, Dylan stood there in silence, simply watching her. She looked so small, so defenseless, and yet she had unknowingly tied him down in ways the army never could. He walked closer and sat on the edge of the bed. The faint moonlight slipping through the curtains touched her face, making her look even more delicate. Dylan reached out, almost hesitantly, and brushed a strand of hair away from her cheek. "You really have no idea what you've done to me," he whispered. Isabella stirred slightly, murmuring something incoherent in her sleep before snuggling deeper into the quilt. Dylan's lips curved into a faint, almost unwilling smile. He leaned down and pressed another kiss to her forehead, softer this time, almost reverent. Lying back beside her, he stared at the ceiling. His mind replayed his mother's words, his father's warning, and Isabella's quiet presence beside him. The bitterness in his chest hadn't vanished, but for the first time, it didn't feel overwhelming. Without realizing it, his hand slipped beneath the quilt, searching until it found hers. Her fingers were warm, small, and they curled instinctively around his. Dylan closed his eyes. Maybe, just maybe, his parents were right. The faint warmth of sunlight brushed against Isabella's eyelids, coaxing her awake. She stirred slowly, her lashes fluttering as her gaze adjusted to the morning light seeping through the curtains. For a moment, she lay still, savoring the rare peace that surrounded her. Then she felt it, his hand still holding hers beneath the quilt. Her heart skipped. Dylan's chest rose and fell steadily beside her, his face relaxed in sleep. In that quiet moment, he looked nothing like the man who often carried sharp words and hidden storms. He looked, almost gentle. Isabella's lips curved in a small, hesitant smile. Carefully, she studied his face, the strong jawline, the faint shadow of stubble, the strands of dark hair falling slightly across his forehead. Last night had left her exhausted, yet it wasn't only her body that ached, it was her heart, too. She wanted to reach him, to soothe the weight he carried, even if he never admitted it aloud. Her fingers tightened ever so slightly around his hand, and to her surprise, Dylan's brows furrowed faintly in his sleep, as if he could feel her thoughts pressing into him. Isabella bit her lip. She remembered his mother's worried smile, the way his parents looked at him with both fear and hope. They wanted him to choose her, to choose this life with her. But would he? The question lingered in her chest like an ache she couldn't shake. Still, as she lay there, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, Isabella decided something quietly within herself. No matter how much pain or anger he carried, she would not let go of him. Even if his heart was locked, she would keep knocking until the door opened. And maybe, just maybe, he would let her in. Isabella shifted carefully, trying not to wake him, but the movement was enough. Dylan's grip on her hand tightened instinctively, and his eyes opened, still heavy with sleep. "You're awake," he murmured, his voice low and husky. Isabella nodded softly. "And so are you." He studied her for a moment, his gaze unreadable. Then, without warning, he pulled her closer until her head rested against his chest. The sudden closeness startled her, but she didn't resist. She could hear the steady beat of his heart beneath her ear, a rhythm that was strangely comforting. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, his tone almost casual. "Yes," she whispered. "I did." There was a pause. Dylan's hand rested lightly on her back, not pushing her away but not pulling her tighter either. "Good," he muttered. "You need it." "I might have been too much last night." Her cheeks warmed at his words, but she shook her head quickly. "I'm fine, Dylan." "Really?" He tilted his head slightly, looking down at her with a smirk that didn't quite hide the flicker of guilt in his eyes. "You're too honest for your own good, Isabella." "I just don't want you to worry," she said softly, lifting her gaze to meet his. Something in her sincerity made his chest tighten. For a brief second, Dylan's hand cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing gently along her skin. "You're strange," he muttered, almost to himself. "No matter how much I try to scare you away, you keep staying." Isabella's lips parted, but no words came out. She wanted to tell him that she wasn't staying because she had to, she was staying because she wanted to. But the weight in his eyes silenced her. Instead, she simply leaned into his touch, letting the moment speak for her. Dylan watched her, his throat tightening with emotions he didn't want to name. Finally, he let his hand fall away and sat up, breaking the fragile silence. "Come on. You should eat something," he said, his tone shifting back into cool nonchalance. But Isabella knew, deep down, something inside him had just cracked. Upstairs, Isabella sat at the edge of the bed, her fingers twisting nervously in the quilt. She couldn't hear every word, but Dylan's raised voice carried up the stairs. "The army." Her chest tightened. Slowly, she slipped out of bed, pulling a robe around her shoulders, and crept down the hallway. By the time she reached the staircase, Dylan's father's words cut through the silence. "Are you going to fight them, or are you going to fight for her?" Isabella froze, her hand gripping the railing. Her heart pounded painfully as she pieced the fragments together. The army wanted Dylan back. And that meant he could leave her. Her breath caught, and the faint sound was enough to draw Dylan's gaze upward. His eyes met hers across the distance. "Isabella," he said sharply, almost as if scolding her for listening. She stepped down slowly, her bare feet silent on the wooden stairs. "You're going back." Her voice trembled despite her effort to keep it steady. "No," his mother quickly intervened, shaking her head. "Sweetheart, don't think that. Nothing's decided." But Isabella's eyes never left Dylan. She searched his face, desperate for an answer, for reassurance. Dylan shoved his hands into his pockets, his jaw tightening. He didn't reply immediately, and that silence was worse than any confession. Her throat burned. "So it's true." "Isabella," Dylan began, but she cut him off. You promised me, her voice cracked, but she forced the words out. You promised me you wouldn't leave me. The room went still. His parents glanced between them, but neither dared to interfere. Dylan stepped forward, his expression dark but conflicted. I never break my promises, he said finally, his tone low and steady. But the world doesn't care about promises. And if they come for me, I don't know if I can stop them. Tears welled in Isabella's eyes, but she blinked them back fiercely. Then fight, Dylan. Fight them, for me. Don't let them take you. Her plea sliced straight through him. For the first time, the soldier in Dylan faltered, and the man, her husband, stood at war with himself. The silence between them stretched, heavy and fragile. Isabella stood at the foot of the stairs, her robe clutched tightly around her as if it were the only thing holding her together. Dylan's chest rose and fell sharply. For a moment, he looked ready to argue, to throw back the same sharp words he used to shield himself. But when his gaze locked onto her trembling eyes, all of that hardened armor crumbled. He crossed the room in a few long strides, stopping just in front of her. His hand rose, hesitated, then finally cupped her cheek. Isabella, he said softly, almost pleading with her to believe him. I'm not leaving you. Not if I have a choice. Her lips parted, but no words came. A single tear escaped, sliding down her cheek, and Dylan brushed it away with his thumb before she could lower her gaze. I don't care what they write in their letters, he continued, his voice firmer now. They can drag me back by force if they want, but I swear to you, I'll fight with everything I have to stay here. With you. The raw certainty in his tone shook her. She wanted to believe him, wanted to hold on to every syllable. But a quiet fear whispered inside her, what if even his strength wasn't enough? She leaned into his touch anyway, her voice barely above a whisper. Promise me again. His eyes softened, though his jaw was still set with determination. I promise. You're mine, Isabella. And I'm not letting anyone take me away from you. Her arm slipped around his waist, pulling him close, and Dylan wrapped her against his chest, holding her as though the world outside didn't exist. For that moment, it was just the two of them, her fragile hope and his desperate resolve binding them together. Behind them, Dylan's parents exchanged a glance. His mother's eyes shimmered with tears, but his father's face was carved with worry. Because even as Dylan held Isabella like his lifeline, they all knew the army's shadow was already looming at the door.